What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for the next hour or so. A little bit of an abbreviated version of House Divided. I've got some stuff I've got to do in the next hour, and it just kind of is what it is. For the next hour, though, we're with you. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, all of those things. We welcome all of you into the Specs chat. We will take your super chats. It's been kind of quiet on the super chat front the last couple of days. By all means, super chat away. We'll get you right to the front of the line. A lot of things to get into today, including the 5+7 model in college football. We'll get to that. But the thing we wanted to lead off with was kind of a continuation of the conversation from yesterday, Chad. Mm-hmm. My updated top 25 Longhorns going into really spring football. This list would change presumably over time, but where we are in February, I ranked the top 25 Longhorns. You can see it right there on the ticker scrolling across. Inside the top 25 is Arch Manning. And I've had a number of people who've said you've got Arch ranked too high. He shouldn't be in the top 25 because he hasn't played enough. I kind of dispute that notion for a variety of reasons. When you saw Arch in the top 25, your initial reaction to him being included, I'm 18 is CJ Baxter, 19 is Gunnar Helm, 20 is Derek Williams, 21 is Terrence Brooks, 22 is Jonte Cook. Then comes Amari Niblack. And then at 24 is Arch Manning in front of Michael Taft, Bert Auburn, and a guy like Cam Williams and a few others. So when you initially put the ticker list in and you were looking at it, your reaction to Manning being there was what?
I mean, I guess at first it was the old man from Coming to America. It was a little bit of, there it is. And it was just kind of a smile came across my face. I'm like, okay, all right, I see what he's doing. But also, I had already seen Colin Simmons. So if you're going to make the argument that Colin Simmons with no snaps at all deserves to be in this discussion, then by the time I saw Arch's name, it wasn't as crazy as it would have been, because there's even more of an extreme argument. Now, look, we're talking about 3 rushes for 7 yards for Arch, and was it 3 for 5 passing or something like that? I mean, it was not 2 for 5, my bad, 2 for 5 and 30 yards in that game. I mean, it just wasn't a whole lot, but I think that's, you're trying to set the stage, because as you've said, this is not you projecting to the end of the season. This is not you projecting to like the final game. This is right now. Like as we go into spring, how we see it. So I would say I smiled. I knew what you were doing, but I was not surprised.
There's 3 layers to this that I think explain why Arch would. And in reality, I may have Arch too low. And I'll explain why. Number one, just as like a philosophical position to take, and I mentioned this yesterday on the show, if you are the number 1 overall prospect in an entire national recruiting class, think Vince Young in 2002. Think of every number 1 overall prospect that you can think of anytime, anywhere. That player arrives on whatever campus that he's on, and he's one of the 25 best players on the team, or he was vastly overrated. Just say it out loud to yourself. Well, yes, the number 1 overall rated player amongst all 5 stars, amongst thousands of prospects in any given recruiting year, he's the number 1 overall guy, but he's not one of the top 24 players on the team. Like that just doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. Yeah. The other element of this is you got to understand that I'm hearing things. This is maybe 2 and 3 of the points I want to make are combined. If Malik Murphy were still on campus, Would Malik Murphy be in the top 25? I would contend that he would probably be somewhere in that 20 to 25 range. That he was a starting quarterback a year ago. We all know about his talent. You start looking at some of the players that were in the back end of that top 20, top 25. A lot of guys less proven than even Malik Murphy, Jonte Cook as an example. And Jonte Cook makes the list where he does flat out kind of because he's also a 5-star guy. But I think Malik Murphy would have been on the list had he stayed. And I think Arch Manning is better than Malik Murphy. I had been hearing whispers that it was really close in August, really close in September. But I think by the end of the year, Arch Manning was ahead of Malik Murphy, whether or not he was ahead of Malik Murphy on the depth chart or not. So when you take these things into consideration, including the things I've been hearing from behind the scenes about how well he came on towards the end of last year, yeah, I think he's got to be in the top 25. Or, again, then that guy wasn't the number one overall player, really, in the classification that he came out, because you're either that good and that talented. For instance, the day that Vince Young showed up on campus in 2002, he was one of the best 25 players on the team. And I don't care if he was third string quarterback.
Right.
He was behind Chance. He was behind Chris Sims. But Vince Young has never a day in his life not been one of the best 25 players on any football team he's ever played on. That's the same logic has me putting Arch in the top 25, although I will admit I did receive a lot of pushback from people who felt like, oh, it hasn't been earned yet. And I'm thinking, well, half the dudes on this list haven't earned being on necessarily this type of list.
Yeah, not just Colin Simmons either.
No. I mean, look, Jonte Cook, what has he earned? He's got 8 career receptions.
Right. Hey, he did catch the very first pass completed by Arch Manning as a Longhorn. I mean, catch that's worth like twice your normal catch.
Well,
right?
And he was on the field for, was it the Adonai Mitchell touchdown in the Alabama game where he throws his hands up into the air to celebrate?
Yes.
Because he sees what the safety has done.
There you go.
Leaving Mitchell. I think it was Mitchell. He and Worthy, I can't remember which of those plays it was.
Yeah.
They hit two very – yes. The pre-celebration before the ball's even over his head is one of my favorite moments of last year. It very much reminded me of Nick Young when he was with the Lakers, and he shoots that three, and he turns his back and throws his hands up into the air, and the ball rims in and out.
Yes.
Except this time, that's not what happened. It actually was a touchdown. It was maybe a premature celebration, but still a warranted celebration nonetheless. So I don't know. Like I look at the Arch discussion, and he's a really hard guy to talk about because of his pedigree, because of his ranking, because he probably won't play a lot this year. But I would say this: if Arch Manning is forced to start a couple of games in October or November, I don't think that anybody in the Texas football program is going to blink with Arch being given those responsibilities. And if that's true, then he probably, again, is one of your top 25 best players. If he can be the most important player on the field and everybody's like, yeah, no, we're good, Arch is playing, then that to me is a sign that maybe he should be ranked ahead of your kicker, or maybe he should be ranked ahead of an offensive lineman in Cam Williams who's never also started a game. And yet I don't quite think of Cam Williams as a number one overall player in a recruiting class. So that's my position. I know it's slightly controversial, and I know that we could talk about Arch Manning every day and people all across the country would eat it up, but I don't think I overcooked the grits.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, we had an early chatter. We do have a super chat that came in. Rick, we're going to get to you, I promise. Early chat came in. You can never overcook Arch. That's at least Ben's theory. And catch the way I would look at it. I went back and watched just the highlights of his game against Tech, the time he got in. And by the way, let's all remember, when he walked in the game, it was 50-7. That was the score when he walked on the field. And
that was some kind of day. Tech really got it shoved in that day.
It really was. And he got a pop like Brock Lesnar used to get in WWE when he's been gone for 8 months. He comes out there, starts running plays, and there's one play that really stood out to me, and it goes right to what Ben's talking about. And this is why I agree. You can't overcook him because he's magic. There was a 3rd and 4, first drive. They ran 2 plays, got 6 yards, and it was 3rd and 4. Arch took the snap in shotgun. He saw a little opening. He ran for 6 yards and slid for a first down. The pop the crowd gave him, catch, reminded me of 2 guys that wore that uniform, Ricky and Vince. And they're magic. They used to do the same thing. Vince would just do this basic little, I'm just going to duck out of bounds here at 8 yards. It was 3rd and 6. Was it super special? Not necessarily. Was it like the most amazing thing you'd ever seen? Nope. But the crowd still popped like that. When Ricky would get the ball and get 6 yards on 3rd and 4, the crowd would pop in a way I've never heard them pop for any other running back that I've seen wear that uniform during my life and run the ball. So when I see and hear that catch, it tells me you can't overcook him. It's just one of those things that everybody, Quinn Ewers included, is going to have to deal with. The kid is special. He's now your backup. He's 1 play away. And oh, by the way, he is that guy. And catch, I'll tell everybody, go back and watch that throw he makes to Casey Kane on the left side. He throws from the right hash, and he throws a missile out there to Casey Kane, and he made it look simple. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay. That's what that arm's supposed to look like. I agree with you, Ben. I don't think we can overcook this thing. He's a part of the discussion in 2024, one way or the other. Not that far, Sandman. Not yet. Not that.
It's got to be like somewhere in the middle, Sandman,
somewhere in the middle. Yep.
Somewhere between statue and outside of the top 25. There's got to be some middle ground, I would argue. Real quick, I saw this. Rex, you're right. As soon as it was coming out of my mouth, it was on the moon. There were 2 moonshots. Xavier's was to the left. Adonai's was to the right.
So it was the X-Man where Jonte saw it. Okay. Yeah.
As soon as I said it, I was in my head thinking that was Xavier, and Mitchell's was more towards the right side of the end zone. Sandman says Arch greater than Cook. Well, and so Sandman, this brings up an interesting Chris. No. The answer is no. Would it have been too young in 2002 to name your kids after Vince? No. You'd have been ahead of your time.
You're just getting out in front. You're a visionary at that point.
Damn right.
Yeah.
A visionary. Perfect word there, Chad.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, if I slot Colin Simmons in at 15, for the exact same reasons that I feel like Arch has to be on the field. He's a 5 or on the list. He's a 5-star guy, and not just any 5-star guy. A top of the 5-star pile kind of guy. Colin Simmons ranked 10th, I believe, in the Rivals rankings. Do I have Arch too low? As crazy as that sounds, if the thought process leads me to believe that Colin Simmons, and look, I didn't put Colin Simmons at 15. Chad, put the ticker back up.
Okay.
I didn't put Simmons at 15 because I arbitrarily thought, okay, well, 15 is, like a very just philosophically, this is where I'm slotting him because out of principle, a guy with his recruiting pedigree has to be there. I purposefully looked at each of these guys and I said, Jaden Blue? No, Blue's got to be ahead of him right now. DJ Campbell? Second best offensive lineman, got to put him ahead. Sorrell, 3-year starter. Jake Majors, kind of the same thing. Where you see Simmons come in, Collins, kind of unproven. Malik Muhammad, 2-game starter. CJ Baxter, 4.8 yards per carry. Gunnar Helm, backup tight end. Derek Williams, kind of still unproven product at safety. Suddenly, where I put him at 15, I felt like at 16, the real question marks on this roster coming into this season started to come in. If you look directly before 15, it's the Jake Majors, it's the Baron Sorrells of the world. Those guys aren't like first team or second team all Big 12 players yet.
Right.
But they're absolutely proven as, I think, fairly high-level college players. They were solid starters on a team that made the playoff. Kind of the same for DJ Campbell as well. I slot Simmons in there because, again, when this next part of the list comes up, I wouldn't say that any of those guys have more talent than Colin Simmons, and I don't know that any of them are significantly more proven. And you could make the case, you could do the exact – you could have moved Arch to 15 and said the exact same thing. It's like, well, these guys aren't even very good players yet. You'll have to excuse me if I just go ahead and put the number 1 overall prospect from the 2023 recruiting class in that slot ahead of guys that we're still waiting for light switches to flick on with.
All right, so here's another philosophical question, Catch, kind of for you as you're putting this together, because you're putting Colin Simmons in, you're putting Arch Manning in, and everybody else that's there. When you factor it in, clearly you're saying this is your ranking right now. But as you filter in everything you think it's going to be, are you also saying this is where I think it could end up in 2024?
Sure.
Or are you saying this is where things could end up like way down the line, like when careers are finished?
It's a 22. That's a completely different list.
Okay.
And Jonte Cook's not in the 20s on that list. Right. This is where I think it is right now. And again, I would have ranked Arch Manning ahead of Malik Murphy. And I think if Malik Murphy were still on campus, I probably would rank him ahead of Amari Niblack, who was a 4-game starter last year at Alabama. Ended up having pretty nice stats for a guy that only started 4 games at Alabama, catches 20 passes, has 4 touchdowns, had something like 340 yards receiving. Apologies, that's off the top of my head. I might be off by, I think it was actually 342 if I remember correctly. But, you know, I don't think I've gone crazy here. If anything, I think I've undercooked the grits because, well, Jonte Cook's a perfect example. Arch Manning played about as much as Jonte Cook did. Maybe that's not quite accurate. Jonte was getting like 10 snaps a game, somewhere between 5 and 10 snaps a game, sometimes not a lot.
His snaps were worlds more important, though. I mean, galaxy.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say he's not proven. In fact, we don't even know if Jonte Cook is going to start this season because Isaiah Bond is on the list, because Matthew Golden is on the list, because Silas Bolden is on the list. And those 3 guys are all in the top 10 right now. So it's possible. Jonte Cook's got to be on the top 25, but he also is largely unproven. And I think the question is, do you think he's going to – I think by the end of 2024, Jonte Cook's higher up the list. I think he is going to be an impact player, but he's not that guy yet. And I think there are other players that you'd put slightly – I've got Terrence Brooks ahead of Jonte Cook at this point. He's been a 2-year starter in the secondary. He's been a pretty good player. So I think the biggest thing that you take out of this is that this is a Texas team with a lot of talent. There aren't many places in the country that Jonte Cook, Arch Manning, Malik Muhammad. Like, there aren't many places in the country where guys with that level of talent would be this far back on a list of top 25 players in the moment on a campus.
All right. We do have a super chat. I mentioned that one. We'll get to some other things too. This is, I don't know about off the topic, but it does talk to the 2024 season. And Rick, you were nice enough to throw $5 at us. We do appreciate that. Thank you for all those super chats. What are your thoughts on expectations versus respect going into the SEC? I feel a target on our back again this year doesn't help this transition. Interesting. Rick, my gut reaction is I think your team is going to have a good, healthy dose of both of those things, and they should. And I would not tell you that I don't think the target on your back is going to be a bad thing. I think they can actually live up to the target.
Well, and when Texas is good, it's always going to have a target. Georgia plays with a target. Alabama plays with a target. Even LSU plays with a target, I think. And, you wouldn't put them on the same level of Georgia and Alabama. Texas made the playoffs last year. Texas is Texas, which comes with a lot of implications. But it being the J.R. Ewing, that's for the kids out there, of college football, it comes with a certain amount of target on the back. And
not a certain amount. It's there every moment. Like, that's the other thing, Rick. Don't act like it's ever not there. That's what you are as Texas. Catch, if the Yankees lose 9 games in a row and they're going to Toronto on the 10th game, is it a big deal in Toronto? Yes, they're the Yankees. They have the target.
Same thing with the Red Sox. Same thing with the Dodgers. When the Dodgers go into San Diego, when the Dodgers go to Philadelphia, when they go to Arlington, like, there are just certain places that matter more. That's why the tickets cost more.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, the Dodgers are in town. We're going to get to see, an abundance of highly paid superstars. It is just kind of the way that it goes. And look, it would have existed, Rick, whether the team was good or not. And then if this was an 8-5 team with that target, you're probably right. If this is a team where the expectations are 10-2 at a minimum and win at least a playoff game, welcome the target, because that's who you are. You're the team now that if another team beats you and they're not Georgia, you might get the field rushed. If Mississippi, if Texas goes to certain schools in the SEC, it won't happen everywhere, but you bring that kind of juice with you and embrace it. Embrace the hate. Embrace what comes with it. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to be there, Rick, regardless. You might as well take it, hug it, embrace it, live it, breathe it, taste it, eat it. You might as well do all of those things because it is who you are, and I don't think you'll ever be able to close your eyes otherwise. And the good news is it looks like Texas is going into first of all, I think Texas has SEC respect right now. They went into Tuscaloosa. They won that game by double digits. They made it to the playoffs. Like, that's the kind of stuff that SEC folks, they will respect the hell out of that. Had either of those two things not happened, I think there would be more of a got to go in year one and earn some respect. I think people in the SEC not only respect Texas, they've brought them in, Chad, into the womb, into the sweet spot, into the cuddle spot, and said, we expect you to make the playoffs next year and represent the SEC like a big boy SEC team.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
There's nobody in the SEC right now that's thumbing their nose up at Texas after last year and thinking to themselves, they'll be lucky to get top 6. That's just maybe 12 months ago, yes, but not after the 2023 season. Rick, thanks for the super chat, my man. That was that provided us content. You know what I mean? Like, there was actually a little bit of back and forth. Sometimes the super chats are easier to answer.
It was good. It was good. It wasn't right exactly what we were talking about at the time, but I knew it would play in. So thank you, Rick, for that. Real quick before we do anything else, let me tell you about one of my favorite drinks on the planet. That is Deep Eddy Vodka. They got a tasting room out there in beautiful Dripping Springs. Look at the sun shining in that picture. Heck, sun shining right now where I am. Make your plans. Here's the schedule: Thursdays and Fridays, 11 to 7. Saturday, 11 to 5. Sunday, 12 to 5. Figure out your weekend schedule, get your friends, family, whoever it is together, and head on out there to Deep Eddy Vodka. It's a great time. You can get those great cocktails. You could do some sipping on that wonderful vodka. If you want to just do some flights, they'll do that for you. You can, of course, buy the vodka out there and some merch if you like it. You need some Deep Eddy merch. They've got that for you. Scan the QR code, and you can go check them out whenever you are ready out there on East Highway 290 in Dripping Springs, the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. It is so good. Catch, as we move forward, you still want the crawl up there?
You can take that down. We don't want to completely distract people when we start talking about the really important thing of 5 plus 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
College
true.
Football's has figured out what the playoff things are going to look like. I think it's actually an interesting discussion. I've got a theory I want to run by you.
Okay, please do.
Well, you go ahead and tell everybody what happened.
So it is official today that we are going 5 plus 7. This is what I think everybody needed to hope for in terms of what they're going to do. So everything you've been hearing about is now going to happen, starting at the top. The top 4 conference champions. So you have to win your conference to get the bye. Let's make that clear. Top 4 conference champions get a bye. Could be a group of 5. That year that Cincinnati jumped up, that could happen. Top 4 get the bye. Then the 5 through 12 games are going to happen at home sites. Awesome stuff. 5 through 8 get to host a game against 9 through 12. That's all going to happen. Then when you add up the quarterfinals and the semifinals, that's the 6 New Year's 6 bowl games. That's where those games are going to be played. And then you shop around the championship game like we have. So in the end here, Catch, the things that are affected, you're not going to have to have 2 group of 5s in. I think that's important. And then the other thing to remember is for those two Pac-12 teams that are left, they have now agreed that the best way for them to get in is as an at-large. Washington State and Oregon State cannot get in as a Pac-12 champion. That doesn't exist this year. It can't happen. So they know that only getting the at-large would help them out. So it's going to happen. There are no limits on how many conference teams could get in. We all knew that was going to be the case, but it is official now. There could be 8, 10. Heck, you can't have all of them, but you could have, what's the maximum number? I guess 9 out of 12? Could you have 9?
No,
you could have 8.
Yes.
That's a number 8 because 3 other conferences would have to have champions get in, and then you may have a group. Maybe it's 7, but you know what we're saying. So it's done. It's official. We're getting the 5 plus 7 starting this year. And then we got 2 more years of a couple of situations. And then down the road, they're going to mess with bowl affiliations and stuff like that. But the basic thing is today it's official, 5 plus 7.
Remember a year ago, remember like 3 months ago when being 5 was a disaster? Poor Georgia came in at 5, lost their conference championship game, got left out. 5 was the worst thing that could happen. Florida State would raise their hand and say 6 wasn't awesome either. But Georgia was closest. They were 5. 5 seems like a hell of a place to be now. Let me outline this for you, okay?
All right.
5 means you're hosting a first-round playoff game, and there's a good chance that 12 is going to be one of these non-SEC Big Ten teams. That might be Liberty or somebody like that's where 12 could come in.
Right.
Because 5 get in, but the first 4 are your highest ranking conference champions. that fifth conference champion could very well be 12th a lot of years.
Yep.
Could be. You don't know, right? But I think in a lot of years, 5 gets you a home playoff game against possibly a G5 team, right?
Yes.
And then you win that game, and your second round game is against the 4th best conference champion. Again, might not be one of the highest 4 teams in the playoffs or on the list. It's the highest of the conference champion teams. Could be ranked 8th or 9th in the standings, but because they won the conference championship, they get the 4 seed. But you're probably playing ACC Big 12. So your second round matchup in the quarterfinals, you're avoiding big dog SEC, big dog Big 10. So in that respect, in a way, both 5 and 6 at least have that going for them, that in a second round matchup, every year, they're going to avoid the SEC and the Big 10 in the second round. So if you're 5, you're potentially getting kind of the weakest of the 12 on paper. And then your next matchup is against the weakest of the conference champions from either the ACC or the Big 12, you would think.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's a good point. Another issue that I've not heard discussed, Catch, is are they going to set up a true bracket, or are they going to have a little NFL vibe where if the 12 upsets the 5, the 12 will face the 1 seed?
I bet they go with a bracket.
I assume that as well. So in your scenario, that 5-12 winner will always play number 4.
Yes.
That's my assumption as well. But to be fair, we don't know it absolutely for sure, but it's a great point. Like 5 through 8 are kind of an interesting group of teams. As one of our, where did it go? As one of our chatters was listening to me explain it, 5 through 8 will host at their field. Yes. Cotton, that is happening. You could have a game, and that's why. And I've been keeping up with that for the last few years and reminding everybody of what sites could be hosting. It's incredible stuff. We've had all kinds of examples the last couple of years where Austin, Oxford, Knoxville, Happy Valley in December, God help us all, could be hosting playoff games. So Catch It will have that NFL feel of what are your advantages of bringing somebody to your house? How's your crowd? What's your weather look like that time of year, and how could that affect the playoff? It's going to be incredible.
I mean, the thing is, the 1 seed plays 8-9 on paper, right? I mean, if they go to a bracket, they'll play the winner of that 8-9 game in the semifinals or in the quarterfinals, right?
In theory, yes.
In theory, yes. It's possible that could be, well, easily another SEC team. So let's say Georgia's the 1 seed, just for giggles, okay? Let's say 8-9 is Oregon versus Alabama.
Could be.
It's not out of the realm of possibility this year. It's possible that you're, as the number 1 team, your first playoff game, although at home, could be against, pick any of the SEC teams that you want that wouldn't be Georgia. Any of them could fall into somewhere on that list. But you could be playing Alabama at home. Would you rather be Georgia and playing Alabama at home? Or let's say you're Texas in the 5 seed and you beat Liberty in the opener, and now you're on the road at TCU. Or on the road in Lubbock, or on the road in maybe Utah. That sounds actually like a little scarier of a game than some of these other games that they've played. But it will be interesting to see how the 5-6 seeds are able to weaponize potentially being able to play those 3rd and 4th teams and avoiding an SEC team or maybe a Big 12 or a Big 10 team all the way until the semifinals, Whereas the 1 seed has to play somebody 8-9, and you can almost set your watch. There's going to be at least one SEC team that's 8 or 9. At least one.
Yep.
And it could be 2. It could be LSU, Alabama, first round, 8 versus 9, and then the winner of that game goes to Georgia. I think, like I said, there's something to be said for having a bye, but having a home playoff game and then avoiding potentially the SEC or the Big Ten again until the semifinals isn't the worst lot in life. So I can't wait until we see this thing unfold, Chad, in real time in year 1, so we can start to, pick apart. Oh, they didn't get a bye, but it worked out for them in this way.
Yeah. You want to see it? You want to peek at last year's rankings, final rankings?
Well, sure.
Just to kind of remind ourselves what it would have been last year?
Yes.
All right. Let's take a look here. We'll jump in here and direct. So
the problem is Alabama. I guess that would have worked. Those would have been the 4 highest ranked conference teams.
That would be, yeah, that's true. That's a good thing to look at first. So yes, they would be the highest ranked conference teams because you had Florida State as your ACC champ. Florida State, let's go to 12. Florida State gets to host OU.
12 would have been Liberty, correct?
Yeah, let's just cruise down here and find them. But yeah, there's Liberty at 23. So let's say they go to 12 and OU's out, just to make it simple.
So Florida State would have played Liberty in the first round at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of the weird situation of the SEC champion being 4th, it's so weird to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Bama and then they would have gone, and then they would play Bama. Your 8-9 idea is Oregon, Missouri. I knew there was an SEC team there last year. 8-9 would involve Missouri, and then you'd have Ole Miss.
It doesn't work it wouldn't have worked this past year because Alabama would have been the 4. But I do think moving forward that the Big 12 and the ACC are consistently going to come into those 3 and 4 spots. Now, maybe because those conferences are so tough, maybe there's a year where the ACC is undefeated and you've got an Alabama who's 12 and I don't know. I suppose there's a lot of ways. It'll be year by year, but I think instinctively my first impression is that the SEC and the Big Ten more times than not are going to be 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And obviously, if you look right here, this can never happen in this playoff coming up. Michigan and Washington cannot be 1 and 2. That doesn't exist. That can't exist anymore because they're in the same conference now. So it'd be one of those two. Texas, if you want to, Texas because they win the Big 12. Bama wins the SEC.
So Florida State would have been 4.
Right. Florida State would have been up into a 4 seed, and Michigan or Washington would get kicked down. So just as a way of kind of taking a look at
I'm ready for college football to begin, Chad.
Oh, you kidding me? Good grief. I'm so excited. Like the fact that, the fact that I may get that I may get to live to see this, that my father is going to hopefully live to see this. Like, it's just so cool, man. College football stepping up and actually being a big boy entity in sports for once is fantastic. And you know what? Somebody just brought up a great point. Bama, Texas can't happen. Good point. They could never be now moving forward. It will never be Texas and Bama in the top 4 together.
Correct.
So you do have that. Kenny, great point. It is absolutely yes.
And I watched the Texas basketball game last night, Chad, through the prism of, boy, they better win this game or their ass is really on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Had they lost that game against Kansas State last night. But I'm at that part, and look, the conference tournaments in college basketball don't start. At least I don't think the Big 12 starts until the 12th of March.
It's that week.
I think I heard the guys on the broadcast say that about 15 times because this year the tournament would start on the 19th if we don't include that Tuesday, Wednesday play-in games. So the tournament proper starts on Thursday, the 19th. So it's a later starting tournament than usual. And yet today's February 20th. So we're almost exactly a month away in terms of days from the start of the college basketball postseason. I'm already watching games through the prism of, is this team? I will watch what the Aggies do this week, knowing they're on the bubble. I will watch all of these teams. We do it every year in college basketball. Suddenly, every game that any of those teams play, we know, if they win, that adds to their resume. If they lose, it might play their way out. Can't wait until October.
No.
September, people will be talking about it, but it won't take over. It'll still be the infancy of the season. Everybody will say it's too soon. By the time we get to Texas and Oklahoma in October, the implications, we will start talking playoffs. We will be 6 weeks away, and every team in the top 25 will think, I've got a chance. I just got to win out. I just got to win my conference. I got to make sure I don't lose more than 2 games. Like, for everybody, it will be a little different. When we watch the early games in the season, we'll say it with Texas and Michigan. Okay, well, the loser of that game, that's one of their mulligans. And you only get, definitively, if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC, you get 2 mulligans.
Right.
You can go 10 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Used to be just 1. Now you get 2.
Now you get 2. And you know what? It will make the first loss not feel like life and death the way it has historically in college football, where even Alabama a year ago, when they lost to Texas, they probably thought that, well, we can still win the SEC. Everything's still in front of us. But even them at that point were thinking playoffs, we might be screwed.
Yeah. And that's
now moving forward, you've got some wiggle room.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, because we watched last year. I'll keep bringing up Ole Miss and Missouri. They were dangerous at the end of the year, and we lost that in college football, Catch, our whole lives. It didn't matter. The only way it matters is when you and I said, you know what team that's in a bowl game that nobody wants to play? Blah. And then that team would look pretty good and gives them momentum for the next year. But other than that, who cares? Now you're going to have a team that is dangerous in that slot. By the way, let me clarify something real quick off the chat in case everybody's confused. Chris says Pac-2 champ getting a bye. No, Chris, that is not what's happening. Washington State and Oregon State have been clearly told they don't qualify. They don't have enough teams. The Pac-12 right now is only 2 teams. That's not enough to get consideration by the CFP. So put that out of your head. That's not happening. They can get in, but they won't get in as a top 4. It can't happen. Just rest assured.
When you have to, when you are in the something can't happen mode, I enjoy watching you explain why something can't happen.
I love it when we
his hands start waving.
No, I just don't want Chris to waste any energy thinking that like Washington State could take Texas's slot in the top 4. That does not happen. Can't happen. They could take a 9 spot. They could take an 8, but they can't take a top 4. That will not happen.
And they can't take 12.
And
at the end of the year, they could be 12 if the other champion is higher than that.
Correct.
But they're not getting in as a conference champion.
Correct. Yeah, they will not be considered a conference champion in any way. That 12 seed is fluid. In years where there's a badass Cincinnati, well, Cincinnati's Big 12 now, but y'all know, Liberty. Let's say Liberty's good enough that the committee goes, you know what? They're like 6. Like, okay. So then the 4 conferences are in, and they're in at 6, which will kick a team out ultimately, but then somebody will jump in at 12 as a Power 5. And that could be Washington State. That could be Oregon State.
Oh, again, I can't wait, because there will be the way we will talk about the importance of every game. Trust me, when we get to November and 15 plays 19, do you not understand how big that game is?
Right. It's going to be huge.
And we normally have ignored those games. We've normally been like, who are 1, 2, and 3 playing.
Right.
And when we start talking about college game day moving forward, what's the biggest game? Is it necessarily 1, 2, 3, whoever they play? Or are we going to start looking at college football and this helps out everybody? What happens if TCU's 13 and Utah is 18? Sounds like maybe game day needs to go there because the winner of that game is in a position to be in, and you may be saying in mid-November that the loser of that game, they better win or else they've potentially played themselves too far back in the pack to climb over the other teams.
Catch, what it'll become is those late season NFL games that'll get flexed to Sunday. Sometimes we have a game where you go, well, why is that game on Sunday night? Well, it's because the winner is in the playoffs and the loser's out. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You're going to have that kind of discussion, that kind of vibe. And yeah, it's going to be tremendous looking around the country.
I'm telling you, you and I have had this conversation for a while. I just don't think that people have thought they'll have to live and experience it to truly get it and understand it. But you mentioned the NFL. There are times late in the season in the NFL, especially since they've expanded the playoffs, where every single game every week has playoff implications.
Yeah.
But sometimes some of the teams involved aren't, right? You'll have that in college football as well, but all of those games matter. All of them. We've been watching college football for so long. And what do we say? There's like 2 good games every week.
Yep.
Not now.
Yeah, it's because we've been running on all pageantry. We've been 100% pageantry fueled. That's the word everybody's been using for all these years. Chad, I just love the bands. I love the bands too, but let's put football in it. That's the problem. Now we're going to have pageantry and football at the same time. It's incredible. And Catch, you just mentioned those games. Think about it in the NFL. Late in a season, if Cleveland plays Pittsburgh and Cleveland's out of the playoff hunt, but Pittsburgh's not, what does Cleveland want to do? They want to end the dream for the Steelers. You don't think that translates to the college football landscape? South Carolina can keep Clemson from a playoff spot. The Aggies could keep the Longhorns from getting in. Arkansas could keep Texas from getting a bye. Arkansas could keep Texas from hosting a playoff game. The combinations are endless.
And Sandman, this could legitimately be true.
Yes. Catch, we've already seen it. I picked a great game in the series, a good close game. I went back to that 1990 game. The 1990 Texas A&M game would have been the Longhorns trying to get a bye and the Aggies trying to be in. I mean, I can't explain it any better than that. It's going to happen over and over and over with the biggest rivalry games. The ones you don't love now, you're going to love. There's about to be an Egg Bowl, Catch, where the state of Mississippi is going to, even more than it already does, lose every screw, bolt, and nut it's got. Because Mississippi State, with a win in Starkville, can end the dream for Ole Miss. And it's going to be a scene. And I don't care if you play it at 2 a.m. on Thanksgiving. It's going to be awesome.
And we don't normally pay attention to that game.
No, a lot of people don't. And now you're going to be peeking in on games like that or Missouri, Arkansas.
Because if your team's 14, you're going to be rooting for Ole Miss to lose so teams can move up.
Yeah. How about late in the year? Late in the year, right before the Iron Bowl, where Bama has to go to Norman. What are we all going to think of that game when we hit that Saturday? What's Oklahoma and what's Alabama in that game? And Texas fans, who the hell are you rooting for that day? We don't know. We have no idea, Catch.
Because it really becomes about self-interest. Where are you in the rankings? And you'll find out, You'll make some strange bedfellows when it's your self-interest gets involved in terms of, hey, we want to get in. And, I just can't wait. There have been a lot of people who are tradition and they think it's too many teams. I had somebody on Orange Bloods today say it's too many. They'll go back to 8. And it was like,
probably not. I've been saying the whole time, all they needed was like 6. I'd have been happy with 6, but they're not going back up from 12.
I was like, you think they're wiping out an entire weekend of television product? There's a better chance of the NCAA tournament going from 68 to 32 than there is from them going from 12 to 8, because the ratings are going to be off the grid good.
Yeah, I agree, because we're talking about a sport that's healthy in college football. College basketball is the one that's not, and we just pretend every year in March that it's actually great, and it's not. But this one, it's great, and it's about to get even better. It's going to be silly. It's going to be silly good.
All right, Chad, let's get some buy or sell. We'll go back to the recruiting discussion that we were going to have. Maybe that ends up being in the recruiting hour tomorrow. We'll figure that out. But I'm looking at the clock and realizing it's probably time to do some buy or sell.
I got you. Just real quick. Let me just show the people real quick. Just real quick. There he is, right there. Right there. Real quick.
Aggie's got a commitment.
Just real quick. Aggie's got to commit. Badass running back, state of Texas. He's, DeSoto, 4-star guy.
We ran out of time. The conversation, though, that we will eventually have is the Longhorns are going out of state. When they do that, it leaves guys like that available to be scooped up by the Aggies. It's an interesting conversation to have about what it means to recruit national and the potential implications of the trickle down from there. Because we talked about the running back from California yesterday, Chad.
Davison.
And yes, thank you, Jordan Davison, where the Longhorns are the favorite to get that guy. And so if they're the favorite to get that guy and they're not going to do anything until that guy makes a decision, you got guys in state who are pretty good that you're not going to take, that suddenly, hey, that's a big commitment for the Aggies. And it helped that Texas was nowhere to be seen, really. Now, Ryden had visited Texas. He liked Texas, but the Longhorns have kind of a totem pole, a priority list on the running back front. And I think he felt that, and I think it opened the door wide open for A&M to come in and be the number 1 in-state school for him, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, let's get a little buy or sell in because Ketch has some business to take care of after that. Ketch, who goes first?
I'll go first today. Again, I got my questions in. We might as well take advantage of it.
Hit it.
Buy or sell number 1. This comes from our guy, Cody Carpentier.
Carpentier, yes.
Tony Pollard as a player profile comparison to Jonathan Brooks is spot on. He said last night on Orange Bloods in talking about Jonathan Brooks that Tony Pollard may be his favorite player comparison in the entire 2024 draft class.
Maybe I'll blame the Cowboys play calling and offensive line on what I'm about to say, but I'll go with a sell on that because I don't think of those two guys the exact same way. I think there's a little more physicality to Brooks. I think he's a little bit more of an every down kind of back. The Cowboys have not proven to me that is Tony Pollard.
It's interesting. I wonder how I would have felt 12 months ago about that versus how I feel 12 months later.
No, great question. That's a great point. I feel like I know more about Brooks now as an overall back than I do about Pollard, who, by the way, is about to be a free agent. Free agency in the NFL is coming up. Should be wild.
Well, we thought Pollard a year ago, though, like, oh, he's replacing Zeke. He's finally going to get a full set of touches. He might be all pro. No.
Yeah.
Turns out, no. Buy or sell number 2. You know what? Sorry, I didn't even put that up on the screen. Tavondre, I told you I had the questions.
I know you said you were ready.
My bad. I'm looking at it. I just didn't push the button. Tavondre Sweat was and is a great player, but he shouldn't be spoken on the same level as Casey Hampton.
Bye. Yeah, we gotta respect big Casey Hampton until that full resume is out there. Casey Hampton's full story is legendary. I wouldn't put Tavondre's there quite yet.
Buy or sell number 3. You can name and I didn't put the word name in there. I just put you can more. Apologies for there. You can name more than one driver from yesterday's Daytona 500.
William Byron won the race. Joey Logano, I think, is still a driver. And there's got to be a brother with a Bush last name. And I think Kevin Harvick's not done yet. There you go. That's at least 2. Come on. Bubba Wallace is racing.
I need to do this when this is over with. I need to look at the full results. And honestly, because all of the ones that you named, I know.
Yes.
If Happy Harvick is still out there.
I can't remember if Kevin's still driving, but I know I got 2. William Byron won the race, and I know Logano's still racing. Boom.
But you did it. Byron still
did.
number 4. The 5.7 model in college football is a good one.
Oh my God, it's a buy. I mean, there could be, I could tweak it up, make it a little better, but for what we've got, let's go with it. Let's see what it looks like. Let's hopefully have the SEC and Big Ten keep their swords in the sheath and not get goofy and try to make their own league right away. Yeah, I love it. It's a buy. It's a good system. And when you have that badass Liberty, Cincinnati type team, Tulane, shout out to Sean King from back in the day. Those teams they don't get to just hold up a sign that says we want Bama. You might actually get to play them. Like, that's awesome.
And finally, this is a good one, okay?
All right.
A typo in this too. I got to fix it. Okay. Let me edit it real quick. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, here we go.
So excited.
You would trade 2024 Connor Wigman for 2024 Arch Manning. If you were the Aggies, you would trade Wigman for Arch Manning.
Okay, and so that both those should be 2024s.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Because it's not Arch in 2026. You're trading this year Wigman for this year's Manning.
Yeah, I'll fall for it. Bye.
Wow. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
What the hell?
A Manning in College Station.
That might be the best reason to do it, Chad. I'm sorry, but it would. That would be, if we're going to go.
I don't know if he's going to get us into the playoffs or not, but they're talking about us on ESPN every day.
If you're going to go, you might as well go, right? Take a crazy risk. All right, let's see. Now, are you good or you need to run here?
No, give me my questions.
You're good. Okay. Buy or sell number 1. Texas hoops, too inconsistent to expect a Sweet 16 run. Let's take it one at a time. One tournament win might be pretty impressive.
Buy. Simple as that. I can't state it any better. You wrote the statement exactly right.
Fair enough. All right, Catch, let's go to drama land. Buy or sell number 2, DeMarcus Lawrence says the Cowboys were tired against Green Bay. Micah Parsons questions the team's culture. Then everybody rips Micah because he should set the culture. Sounds about right as a Cowboys fan. Circus gonna circus.
Buy. For the second consecutive question, you wrote it exactly right. I don't really have anything to add.
Fair enough. Buy or sell number 3. UT fans will ask for Arch after the Georgia game.
Buy. You said it exactly right. I don't think there's anything more I can add.
All right. This is close to your heart. Buy or sell number 4. It's Charles Barkley's birthday today. He is your favorite athlete across any sport ever.
The thing is, I would say for a long time, that was a buy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sell.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't have a painting of Charles Barkley hanging on my walls right now.
Okay. But you do have a painting of the Cowboys kicker.
I have 2 paintings of Sadio Mane from Liverpool.
There it is.
And you know what? If I'm being completely honest, Sadio brought me more fulfillment and enjoyment than Barkley did in his career. Because Barkley never won a championship. In fact, when he was with my Sixers, We had one great year where we had one great year where we won the division.
Oh, come on.
And that's as good as it ever got. And then he went to the Suns and he made it to the finals. But with Liverpool and Sadio Mane, they won everything. They won everything there was to win. And there's a part of me that thinks that Michael Irvin is up there too. But
okay.
It's like I have a hard time. The problem is it's easier for me to pick Barkley in basketball and some of these other guys like Mike Schmidt in baseball. The Cowboys, there's so many great players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to pick Troy over Irvin. And I was a big Darren Woodson fan. And deep down, even though Emmitt Smith was incredibly rude to me and wouldn't sign an autograph for me because he was kind of an asshole to a teenage kid when I was trying to get his autograph back in the summer of 1991 and the summer of 1992, I still love the man. So deciding, but if I could just say the 1992 Cowboys, it's cheating.
Yeah,
but if I could do that, then that would be the answer. But because I can't, I'm going Sadio Mane.
Happy 61 to Charles Barkley today, by the way. And finally, catch buy or sell number 5. I am watching Over the Top today. You think it is better than a Rocky movie other than number 5, Creed's Count?
Oh, look, it's better than the last Creed movie.
Oh,
so here's what you're getting. Okay, look.
So we're buying. All right.
You're getting it's an arm wrestling movie made in the 80s.
Right.
That takes itself way too seriously.
I have begun, and I agree already. I already agree. I've been through one arm wrestling thing in the bar, and I agree. Way too seriously.
He's just trying to have lunch with his son, and you've got guys that recognize him, right? Come on, Lincoln Hawk. You think you're hot shit? Come on over and arm wrestle me.
I don't care who that kid is.
And then you've got Bull Hurley, who you don't even know for any reason at all, other than he's randomly at this truck stop.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Is that your dad?" He's like, "Tough shit for you," or whatever it is that he says. Yeah. And the kid's just lost.
And I'm not sure what he's been doing to work up that sweat, or if the air conditioning is just so bad in that building. He's the sweatiest dude in the movie so far, and he hasn't done anything.
And look, there's going to get to a point where the main competition takes place, and these guys are being interviewed for what would be like WWE promos / interview. It's
all right.
It's
I'm excited.
Awesome. And there's an emotional heartstrings thing about a father and his son.
Right. Okay.
Trying to work shit out.
Yeah.
That, again, my wife thinks I love the movie. She's seen it with me. She thinks, you know what? At the bottom line is I want Sylvester Stallone as Lincoln Hawk, the character, to be my dad. Think about that.
Oh, I know. Oh, I can see it. I've only watched like 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, and I kind of want him to at least hang out with me and my dad. I'm not sure if I want him to be my dad.
It might be the most, because you have a dad that you love.
Yeah.
Not all of us have that, Chad. Some of us have dads that have looked them in the eye and said, "Son, I wish you'd have been aborted." So it's a hard conversation to have with everybody.
Yeah.
The thing I would say about this is it's Stallone's maybe his most subdued performance ever. There's something meekish about who he thinks he is in the movie and what ultimately he has to become in order to be the man he wants to be.
Can't wait to check it out. I'll give we'll get the review in tomorrow.
I can't wait. I may watch it tonight just so that I can relive it and be ready for you tomorrow. But I have probably seen that movie 200 times.
I am looking forward to it. All right, Catch, got to pay one more bill. You want to duck out and get gone?
I'm going to duck out because I do have to. I'm probably late for my meeting. So, yes,
okay.
Pay the bills. I will see you tomorrow.
There you go. That is Jeff Ketchum. He is going to duck out while I tell you about the good folks at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. There they are. There's your QR code. You need this place if you're dealing with any number of things, sinus stuff, allergy stuff. If you've had those allergies your whole damn life, if you moved to the Austin area and you got all those allergies that everybody talks about, look, I've been there. So many of you have been there. I was a mountain cedar guy my whole life. Now I don't have to worry about it. Went in there in 2017. They test you for 50 different allergies at once with no needles and figure out what you need. And then they get a special treatment together, those great allergy drops, and they literally dial them up for you, for what bugs you, for what gets you, even in my case, for things that like close up my nose, like real Christmas trees used to bother me. We couldn't have a real Christmas tree when I was a kid because I was allergic to them. And now I don't have to worry about those things. Actually, I haven't tried the real Christmas tree in the house. It's just easier to have the fake one for us. But in theory, I'm good on that too. They got rid of the allergies. They can get rid of your snoring. They can deal with all those issues. There's that QR code. They are over there at Palmer and Mopac. Great location, nice centralized location. Thank you for scanning the QR code. And thanks to those of you that have checked out Sinus and Snoring Specialists because you saw it here on Orange Bloods Live. The number is 512-601-0303. You'll love the way you're treated. Dr. Slaughter is going to meet you in the first consultation. He prides himself on that. He also makes sure to respect those appointment times. And it's been a great process for myself. My wife's going through it right now. She loves that CPAP machine. It is quiet as it can be on my wife's side of the bed once she falls asleep. And it just didn't used to be the case. The snoring was worrying me. And if you're in that situation where you're worried about your bed partner, then you need to talk to them about it. And then y'all need to talk to Sinus and Snoring Specialists about it. So shout out to them. Sinus and Snoring Specialists feel clear, rested, and healthy. And that's going to do it for House Divided today. All right, let's remind you schedule-wise, you got the Modcast coming up this afternoon at 4. That's where all the Orange Bloods info comes together, football talk, every little thing, all the little nuggets they've got that are simmering for maybe the war room later in the week. It's a big day with this 5+7 model being approved. So they'll get into a lot of good college football talk at 4 o'clock this afternoon on the Modcast. Also, something to circle on your calendar for later in the week on Thursday. Ketch is not going to be on the show Thursday, but I got Cody Carpentier. You've seen him in the chats. You've heard us talk about him. You may have even seen him on with Alex on the roster watch stuff. He's now a part of Orange Bloods. He's got his first article out on orangebloods.com this week. Definitely go check that out. And it is about the draft, specifically the combine, the Longhorns going to the combine and what he thinks. So I'm going to go read through that article, make sure I'm good by Thursday. You do the same thing. And then on Thursday, Cody Carpentier will join House Divided. Thanks to everybody who jumped in the Specs chat today. And we do appreciate Specs and all the great things that they do. Let's hit you with a little bit of Specs and remind you at least some of the things that they have on the show.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Got to get me some of those strawberry tartlets. All right. We hope you have yourself a great Tuesday here on this February the 20th. Stay safe out there, and thank you for supporting Orange Bloods Live. Remember, like, subscribe, get your notifications. It's all free. All 3 of those things are free to do. Make it a goal today to get someone you know to be a subscriber to Orange Bloods Live. Again, it is free to do. It really helps us out. It helps our little fragile egos to feel like, oh man, there's more and more people that are supporting this. It would make us happy. So please find somebody. You know somebody that loves the Longhorns, but they haven't become a subscriber of the YouTube page yet. Check it out. Become a subscriber, and most importantly, get your notifications because then you'll find out on your phone when on your computer when the shows are coming up. Thank you for all the support. Until tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I'm Chad Hastings. Jeff Ketchum's off doing that Orange Bloods work that he does so well. Y'all stay safe. Until next time, see ya.